What's up, and welcome back to Nowstalgia Pod, bringing you a mega pod this week of all that's going on in pop culture. And there's a lot to talk about. I am Pat Sheehan, joined by my co-host, Dave Martin Swagger. Dave, mega pod, dude.
Yeah, Megapod. Whenever we do the Megapod, I always think of the Will Ferrell animated movie Megamind.
Yes.
It's like Megapod, my head is like 10 times as big, But a lot of
Yeah.
good stuff, I think that's the just scheduling on our part led to a lot of great stuff bubbling up over 2 weeks that just can't be ignored. And we did ignore plenty of stuff. So curated, baby.
Yeah, last stuff left on the cutting room floor, but man, we're gonna be starting the show talking about the results of one award show and just rolling it into the predictions for another award show for next week. So crazy time, first time that's happened on the podcast for sure. We also got some music and some TV to talk about. So if you want to hear all of that the second it drops, subscribe to youtube.com/nostalgiapod and give us a 5-star rating on Spotify. Nostalgia on Spotify. Dave, we got to start though with the talk of the pop culture world, which is the Academy Awards last night. Had maybe the most viral moment that the award show has ever had since 2017.
Yeah.
Like, which is it's crazy that we started the podcast and like it just immediately has become like interesting. The Academy Awards, for the most part. I mean, every year there's something to talk about. It feels like, but
Right.
last night, while presenting for Best Documentary, if you don't know this by now, I guess I'll recap it. Chris Rock made a joke about Will Smith's wife, Jada Pinkett Smith, a celebrity and star in her own right, who has short hair, said, you're looking very G.I. Jane too, or I'm excited to see G.I. Jane too. Will Smith initially laughed. The broadcast cut back to Chris Rock, and then you just see Will Smith walk up and smack Chris Rock in the face and just walk back, and the sound cut out. By the time it came back on, Chris Rock was visibly and verbally flabbergasted and just moved on to the award. And I think everybody in the moment was like, what the fuck just happened? I guess just your initial reaction to like watching that live last night.
Yeah, as you alluded to, there somehow was a more viral, unexpected Oscars moment since they literally called the wrong Best Picture winner when Moonlight actually won and not La La Land. They somehow topped that. Obviously, this time not intentionally. Again, yeah. Obviously, I was really shocked. Initially, I thought it was a bit of a bit, but then I think it's very obvious it's not a bit as soon as the audio cuts out. And of course, we've since seen the clip, heard what Will was yelling towards Chris and what Chris said back. So it's clearly not a bit. But I was just really like just shocked because it's like so off script. It is just so uncommon to see something like that. Um, and then I started thinking, I was like, oh man, that's no matter what side of the fence you're sitting on with this particular issue, just kind of tough that this has happened because Will Smith's about to win for King Richard, win Best Actor, his first Oscar, long awaited. It's like the energy definitely shifted after that. And to Amy Schumer's credit, she did make a joke about that later on. He's like, vibe seems a little off in here. Wonder why? Yeah, it must be nothing. Thought that was really funny. But yeah, just an absolutely crazy moment. And you know what? The Oscars, 5 million more people watched it this year. Only the second lowest rated. Perhaps this had something to do with it.
I mean, you know that there were a ton of people that weren't watching it and then got a text or saw a tweet that was like, "Holy shit, that's just happened." I mean, I was honestly shook. You and I were texting immediately, and we're like, "Is this real? Like, this is unbelievable." Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you see any sort of violence while an award is being presented at an award show, it's like kind of mind boggling. But to have it be Will Smith is just like
Yeah.
you could never imagine something like that.
And that's what's so crazy about it too is Will Smith is very controlling of his image, especially his career. Obviously, his personal life, his marriage is kind of out in the open at this point, but of many jokes, and perhaps that had something to do with him snapping. But Will is very controlling of his image, very selective in the roles he takes. His career is very specific to him and intentional. And this obviously is just a huge break from that temporarily. Obviously, we saw him consoling with Denzel and Tyler Perry. I think it was Bradley Cooper as well. And like, I think Will, honestly, given the circumstances, his speech when he did win for Best Actor, I thought he weaved it in a pretty solid way while still trying to get out the original speech he probably had in his head. He didn't exactly completely apologize. And I know that's not enough for some people, but I was actually kind of impressed how he's like, yeah, look, I became a crazy Richard Williams for a second. You gotta be careful. Denzel said the devil will get you. You know, I was like, honestly, decent save. You know, obviously you're not changing everyone's mind on they matter, but I thought it was a solid save there.
I thought it was okay. You could just see how upset he was. He was crying throughout the whole
Yeah.
speech, and I think given the fact he was so overwhelmed with probably emotion of joy, emotion of regret, I thought it was an okay speech. I really felt very sad for him in that moment. And I felt worse for Chris Rock because I don't really think the way Will Smith handled that situation was the way I think he should have. I think maybe resorting to violence was not the right answer in that situation. But I felt sad for Will Smith because a man who has made so many movies, entertained people in so many different ways, truly like an icon and legend in the entertainment world, now in this like culminating moment is just like marred by this loss of control or this decision that it seemed like he regretted pretty quickly, and just really not what I wanted to see for him. But you know, just very I guess sad and disappointed that happened to be how it went down. I don't think we need to belabor the point. You can read a lot of tweets and think pieces online about it, and I just hope that they're able to work things out, bury the
Mm.
hatchet, and that I hope this isn't something that follows him around moving forward.
Yeah. On that note, he has a movie coming out in 2022 with Antoine Fuqua called Emancipation. If there's any date movement with that, then perhaps there would be some behind the scenes issues going on. But don't necessarily think too much of that is going to happen, especially if he probably comments on it in the short term. But yeah,
What?
anyway, the Oscars did happen. Awards were
Yeah,
given out.
yeah.
Uh,
And what did you think
Plenty of
about the awards?
controversy separate from Will Smith as well, as the Academy is and ABC is wont to do these days. So plenty of other things to discuss.
Well, Dave, why don't we start with the broadcast? You mentioned Amy Schumer already. How did you feel like her, Wanda Sykes, and Regina Hall did?
I thought they did okay. You know, I think unfortunately a lot of the complaints with them as the host is kind of coming hand in hand with other changes to the broadcast that were controversially made, namely subtracting was it like 8 crafts categories from the actual broadcast, giving those awards out, having those speeches heard when the red carpet was still going on, cutting them together in a really awkward way on the actual broadcast for the viewer. That whole thing has rubbed a lot of people in the academy, a lot of film fans, a lot of people that make movies, everyone really, the wrong way, just feel disrespectful. And when time is not allotted for something so simple like winning an award, but time is allotted for a sketch that may or may not land from one of those hosts, they're going to catch some grief. It's not necessarily their fault. It's more about, I think the blame would lie with the producers. I did laugh at a lot of their stuff. Honestly, it wasn't like, it wasn't like Billy Crystal. It wasn't like something amazingly written or anything, but I was chuckling a fair amount. I thought when Schumer was kind of roasting stuff, when she was up there by herself in the beginning, I thought that was really funny. Like the bit about don't look up, as in the Academy must don't look up reviews for the movie. I thought that was like scorching, and
Yeah.
uh, to some people, though, that may be a little mean spirited to kind of belittle the movies that are up for awards. There, I don't know. I thought they were all right. Some of the bits can go on a little too long, but that's kind of the case for a lot of things lately.
Yeah, I thought they were okay. I was a little disappointed that Regina Hall kind of just became reduced down to being like the single one on the broadcast, and had the bit about like, oh, all these like attractive male celebrities need to go get a COVID test because we didn't have their results. So they need to come backstage with her. I was like, Regina Hall is literally like one of the funniest people in Hollywood, and
she's
I
great.
felt like it was a bit reductive. Schumer was okay. I saw a few things online where like some of the jokes that she delivered other people had posted on Twitter at one point. I mean, who knows if they were actually taken or not? I don't know, but that doesn't really matter. I don't think all of the bits really worked. Like there's that one where Schumer came down dressed as Spider-Man, and at that point I was like, we just need to like move on. Just need to like get to the awards, especially because they cut the awards out from broadcasting it live, but then just gave like 3 or 4 minutes to it anyway, and the broadcast ended up running long.
Yeah, longer than last year.
So what the hell happened here?
I know. But speaking to like the disrespectful notion of this kind of change, it came out that they post the speeches on the Academy's website when people win, and lo and behold, they only posted the edited speeches from the broadcast for those awards that got cut and went off in the beginning. They didn't actually post the entire speech. And in this particular case, that means like someone like Riz Ahmed, you get a brief moment of his speech winning. It's like just
why would you want more of him, Dave? If you're the Academy.
And in this particular case, of course, Dune running it up, winning a bunch of awards. Only the most popular, widely seen movie of the Best Picture nominees. Maybe it'd be nice if people got to see that movie win. A lot of enthusiasm for that movie. So yeah, I'd say just Will Packer producing. He gotta go. He ain't coming back next year because this was not the answer. You can't piss off the people that like the Oscars the most by trying to find imaginary people that don't watch the Oscars and trying to get them to watch. It's like focus on who you have, because that's not what they did this year.
I have to say it was definitely a choice to have Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya there, and then just have them sitting in the crowd, but not present or do any sort of anything in front of the camera intentionally.
How about doing a Bond montage for the anniversary, which I totally support, and having many Bond film veterans in the audience, such as Javier Bardem, Judi Dench, Rami Malek, and have none of them announce this montage, instead going to people completely unrelated to that franchise, and Tony Hawk, Shaun White, and Slater. Like, the fuck was that? Like, doesn't make any sense.
They found a way to one up it by doing a bizarre was a 50th anniversary or 60th anniversary tribute to The Godfather that was like Bad Boys themed, and then you had De Niro and Pacino there, right? But they just didn't
with Coppola
talk. They just didn't talk. What?
That was like half a good idea. Absolutely celebrate that movie. People love that movie. Definitely. Have them there. That's awesome. But like that moment was kind of, I think, hurt by everything that just happened with Will Smith. That followed it. The energy was off at that point. But yeah. I mean, these are just like simple mistakes. They seem like, right? Like I just don't understand. And I think perhaps one of the most egregious things of all. You have Samuel L. Jackson winning an honorary Oscar the night before. Denzel Washington reading off all his charities about how Samuel L. is such a great guy. And Samuel L. Jackson, only the highest grossing actor in history. You know what? People love him. People love Denzel. Why not have that on the main broadcast? That is a lot of value. Like, you can just cut a bit and do that. Like, I just don't understand, like, the basics just being so off this time around. It's just really annoying.
Dave, we got enough Samuel L. when they did the 28th anniversary celebration of Pulp Fiction with Uma Thurman and John Travolta with him, which I thought was a weird choice as well. It's like the 28th anniversaries. Love to celebrate them, I suppose. I also just wanted to like shout out two other weird choices, stupid choices. First, you have the biggest song in the country. We don't talk about Bruno performing it live. Starts out awesome, and then all of a sudden in the middle we get the Levitating with the Baby remix of it, where Meg The Stallion, who sounded great, always loved to see
unheard remix to this point. This is new,
but just comes out and then is like doing it basically an Oscars remix to the song that doesn't need a remix. Just like mind blowing choices.
Also, that song obviously should have been the first song they played because
100%.
it's the song the kids like. But no, it got played at 9:50 p.m. on the East Coast.
Ridiculous.
Again,
And then
basic stuff.
all of the popular movie and the top 5 cheering moment. I mean, what did they expect?
Just first of all, they didn't explain it. You know, there was like
No.
anecdotal evidence from people in the room. They're like, "What the fuck was that?" You know, it's not even like, "Oh, I don't know what Army of the Dead is." It's more like, "What the fuck is going on right now?" Like, so, but yeah, you get what you deserve, and you know what? Shout out the Snyder Hive. They won.
For real.
Good for them.
You know, I have to say they actually really got me when they did the top 5 moments though, because you start out with Neo dodging the bullets, and I'm like, oh, you know what? This is a great moment. And then it immediately devolves into Marvel and DC comic movie stuff, and you get
Yeah.
the fucking like Speed Force moment as number 1. Hysterical. Just like could
Right.
not have picked a better moment.
I didn't know that was like the Snyder Hive's like big moment too.
No one did.
From the Snyder Cut. I did not know that was their go-to. Thought it'd be like Superman coming back or something. I don't. What do I know?
You know, just imagine being like Dame Judi Dench and like watching the like screen, and you just see the Army of the Dead like king just like running to like jump onto the helicopter. She must have been like, "What is happening?"
Yeah, David Ehrlich had a good tweet about that. He was like, Dame Judi Dench to whoever she was sitting next to was like, obviously the Snyder Cut was better. Everyone knows that.
Yeah, it's just like the Oscars, they just like can't get out of their own way a lot of the time. And we talked about this when we talked about like some of the choices for the broadcast prior, but yeah, they definitely need to make some changes just to make it like a television show that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know?
Celebrate movies, and people that like movies will hopefully like it. Just simple goals, man. But you know, they did give out the awards, and for the most part, it was very chalk. Almost all the favorites won. Obviously, that means that Coda did win Best Picture. It did get over the hump and defeat The Power of the Dog in the end. Seemed like the tide was going that way based off the PGA and WGA wins, but still an upset, and I think notable because this means Apple in 2 years and change has won Best Picture, something Netflix has still not yet done. Netflix, the makers or distributors of Roma and Marriage Story and The Irishman and Mank and The Power of the Dog, myriad Best Picture nominees, plus other stuff like Don't Look Up. Nope. Apple 1 for 1 Best Picture. Crazy.
Yeah, and they have a really strong shot next year with
Killers of the Flower Moon, Scorsese.
So, man, if they were to go back to back, it's got to be really tough. Netflix, Sean Fennessy of The Ringer tweeted out that their last 3 like big Best Picture movies that were nominated for all the awards.
That's right.
Have been nominated 32 times in the last 3 years and have won 3. So
yeah, Chicago 7 is the other one that didn't win much.
Netflix bias, I don't know. You know, I think I guess what do we make of Coda as a Best Picture winner? It's not like your traditional one. You know, like you think about this in comparison to something like The Artist. I mean, maybe not the best comparison, but usually like the more artistic kind of like well-made movies, like even last year, Chloe Zhao winning. You know, it's like this is not that.
Yeah. No, and some of the criticism of Coda would call it like a Lifetime movie in the sense that it is simple, it is unambitious as a film, and I mean, yeah, it was. I think of the 10, it was my second least favorite. I think, if I recall my list correctly. Like, not that I disliked the movie, I just liked everything else more. You know. I think something has to do with just the campaign Apple managed to put together for this movie. It also was a really long tail. This becomes the first Sundance premiere movie to win Best Picture. That's pretty cool. Of course, this was an Apple acquisition out of Sundance. So that campaign just seemed to roll. But I mean, me and you, when we talked about the movie in August when it came out on Apple TV Plus, did not fucking think there was any prayer of this happening, you know? But it's a wholesome movie, makes you feel good, makes you cry. It has good performances. Obviously, Troy Kotsur winning, amazing speech.
Yeah.
It just makes people feel good. And Power of the Dog has you have a lot of admiration for it, but doesn't make you feel good. And if anything, you just kind of have respect for it more than anything. So it's kind of perfect juxtaposition, I guess, in that regard. Yeah, it's kind of wild, but It's not something that would, it doesn't anger me as a winner or anything like that. It's totally cool. Um, but yeah, I mean, if anything, I was like, it did not need to win screenplay as well. Like, I
Yeah,
think it's the worst script
it
nominated in
was.
that category. That one's a tough beat, adapted screenplay.
Yeah.
Uh, Nevertheless, yeah, I mean, I there's really not a lot of like major beef I have with any of the winners. But Coda, yeah, I mean, it's not the most deserving winner, but it's not like the most offensive one either.
Yeah, I think it just really speaks to like we had this I think coming out of the pandemic year where
Yeah.
um people were just looking for something to like feel good about, and there weren't a lot of movies in the top 10 that really made you like feel good, and Coda definitely did that. It highlighted, I think, something that the Academy is trying to get better at, which is being more inclusive and
Mm.
recognizing people of all backgrounds and all abilities. So I think that it had a lot of different like check boxes, so to speak. And like you said, I think like the Troy Kotzer momentum, I think just overall, like the cast was very likable, so the
Mm.
campaign became very easy for them. There's a lot of factors that probably make this a unique win. I think we'll probably see something more in line with like a Power of the Dog next year, winning, but who knows? I mean, maybe there's a tide turning. I think there's going to be a lot of changes next year to the show and to
Right.
how things go. So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, and just like you said, to the case of the tide turning, as we said when we did the Oscar predictions, the Academy is increasing. It is not as actor dominated; it is more international. A lot of change, a lot of turnover in a positive way. As a result, Coda's win, I said, is the first Sundance premiere. More importantly, Coda only had 3 Oscar nominations and it won Best Picture. That makes it the first winner with 3 or fewer since 1932, Grand Hotel, a film that was only nominated for Best Picture and won. Also, notably, Coda is the first winner that wasn't nominated for director or editing, something that also you'd have to go back decades to get to. So there's definitely a switch, a tide turning, and in general, I think the Academy is honoring good movies, better movies. Worst Person in the World getting multiple nominations, Drive My Car getting multiple nominations. Like they're doing well. And
Yeah.
I think if we just boost the profile of the show, I think people will be very happy because how can you not be happy with Will Smith and Chastain and somebody new like Ariana DeBose and of course Kotzer, like that's a great quad of quartet of people,
Yeah, I agree. And I gotta say, Kotzer and DeBose gave great speeches. Even Jessica Chastain's speech, I really liked. One moment that I would just want to call, I just want to say I had a little bit of a beef with was Hamaguchi getting played off early by the band. I was like, come on, bro, you got to
Right.
give the international directors a little bit more room to breathe than
Well,
that.
and that was also frustrating because they weren't using a fucking band for half of the show.
Right.
And then they started using the band. And then people start getting played off. The DJ up top, Be Nice, he wasn't playing people off. And the band, like, that's just really fucking weird.
Mhm.
Before, they were kind of letting people do long speeches,
Yeah.
which I'm totally fine with. We're there to watch people win shit, you
Yeah.
know? Um, but yeah, that was really frustrating. Like, Hamaguchi was going to win just once for Best International Feature Film. He had just came off an amazing fucking year. Like, let the guy talk.
Let him vamp for real. Anyways, Academy Awards continue to be frustrating, but also we just can't quit them. We'll be talking about them as they grow closer to next year. Any final thoughts on them?
No, I think we hit the most of the stuff. Got the Beyonce thing in the beginning, kind of a sign to come for the broadcast that there's a lot of pre-tape going on here. Obviously, that wasn't Beyonce performing live in Compton. Uh, I think probably the funniest bit of pre-tape though for me was Chris Evans introducing Lightyear and
Yeah.
saying congratulations to whoever had just won, leading all the Charlie Day theorizing of did Chris Evans make 5 different clips for 5 different winners? He must have, right? That's how they did that because obviously that was pre-tape.
Yeah, he had to have. I mean, it would be really messed up if they just told him and he just like spoiled it. But I don't know.
Right.
Anyways, why don't we move on? We got a lot of music to get to today, and some good music too. We have some high profile people that we're starting with, but someone a little bit smaller, uh, making his debut with Peer Pressure, the ArrDee. I
That's
gotta
right.
say, really like his name as someone that wasn't RD in college. I just appreciate finally getting the recognition I deserve.
Yeah.
So I feel like he's like our leader now.
In Artie's case, it's his initials,
Yeah.
hence the name Audie. But yeah, this was one I was really excited to talk about Artie's debut mixtape Peer Pressure, just because Artie is a very interesting but not unfamiliar case of rapid ascent into fame that is justified by the music. Artie first blew up in January 21 with Cheeky Bars, a freestyle he posted online. And then from there, he just kept skyrocketing and kept blowing up with more songs and more features. And now he is another rapidly rising UK rap star that has only just arrived. We recently just talked about Central C. Artie's been making hip hop officially even less time than Central C has. And yet he's also so famous, Uh, I think probably one of the best data point for ArrDee is he was on Tion Wayne's Body remix, and that Body remix, of which ArrDee had a memorable feature, feature verse. That's the first UK drill song to go #1 in the UK. Obviously, UK hip hop is super mainstream in the UK, but to actually have a drill joint go #1, really, I think is a sign of how far the genre's grown. And ArrDee, man, I think he backs it up with his songs. So I overall I quite enjoy Peer Pressure.
Coming into listening to RD pretty much blind. I think the only thing I knew was that he was a British, drill rapper. Um, I was blown away that this was his debut because I thought this sounded really refined. I thought he brought just a ton of energy. Like, we're going to talk about Denzel Curry a little bit later in his new album. And the energy that RD brought was what I expected from Denzel, and we did
Yeah.
not get that. And so I was like, well, at least I got it somewhere this week listening. And I don't think every song on here is an absolute like hit, but I think there's enough on here to walk away and be like, yeah, this kid's going to be a star. So
Yeah,
why don't you
totally.
start off telling me what you liked or what song stood out most to you?
Yeah, I completely agree that there are songs that sound familiar, but he doesn't come across to me as a one note artist. And I think that's what's most impressive about this being his debut, because you can run up his credits up to this point. It's only a handful of songs he's put out, whether it's features or loose singles. A few of those are on this new tape. It hasn't been a long time, and he's only 19. But whether it's different, switching up his flows and kind of riding on different beats, there is, I think, impressive amount of variety. That he sounds comfortable in his own skin on different kinds of songs already, which is really cool. I think for me, Flowers (parentheses) Say My Name, one of the singles, obvious highlight, of course, interpolating Destiny's Child. But the thing with ArrDee, whether it's a song like that or it's a song like track one, Locker, which is just a straight drill banger, you just can't teach this kind of personality, this kind of bravado. And it's just so likable. It's just really great. So when he's talking about he don't bring girls flowers, but he'll give them good wood, though, you just can't help but smile about him doing some toxic ass Brent Faiyaz lyrics in the moment. It's so great because he just sells everything, and I love it. Locker track one, that sounds like a basketball team running out of the gym pump up song to me. I love the subtle wordplay on that, by the way. Like a few bars behind, he talks about boxing and Rocky, and then he makes a reference to Fury and Wilder, referencing Tyson
Yeah.
Fury and Deontay Wilder, but talking about how he was made Wilder. I was like, oh wow, that's like
Mhm.
super witty.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of cool stuff here.
Yeah, that Fury Wilder line definitely caught my ear when listening through. I actually probably my favorite track was War, the second track,
Hell yeah.
which I thought just sounded awesome. I love like the horn that is like so funky, like kind of like rising and falling throughout it, and him and is it Itch or Itch?
AH. Yeah, H is
AH.
the biggest white rapper in England. So that it's a really cool like Spider-Man meme moment having them link up on a track.
Yeah, that I mean, just they flowed together so well, and
Yeah.
that was just an immediate like, whew, had to replay that the second I listened to it.
I also like how they juxtapose each other together because H is from Manchester, so he has like a more northern English
Mm,
accent, whereas ArrDee, of course, is from the very south, from Brighton. So I think they even just kind of sound cool paired against each other like that. But
yeah.
yeah, that's just a really cool track just for like the star power of it too. But it's also good.
Yeah, you think, and Oliver Twist is one of the most streamed songs off of this debut. So you
Mhm.
think about these like first four, pretty undeniable. I think first four off this. What other tracks caught your ear?
Yeah, I think those are the best. I think it starts off
Yeah.
at its best for sure. I thought No Biggie was pretty solid. I thought Come and Go was all right. Come and Go is probably a good example of him doing, maybe a little slower thing, kind of dabbling in other kinds of sounds. He's not
Mhm.
exactly melodic, but he kind of acknowledges it on some of those songs. So yeah, I'd say overall, like for a debut, it definitely like really exceeded my expectations just because the kind of variety, but even like just there's just kind of I think advanced ideas for someone that's very clearly steeped in UK drill and like at his core he is a drill rapper, but I think there's a lot going on there and it's just really exciting. I can't wait for more.
Yeah, I agree. I think the one song that like stood out to me as like maybe put it back in the workshop a little longer was Pandemic,
Yeah,
which I really appreciate. Yeah, he was going for a much more like thoughtful type of track, which I really appreciate him
right.
going there.
Like
I think
lyrically,
just
yeah.
like obviously the idea of like pandemic or this being like the new pandemic is just so like it's so tainted after the last 2 years. I think it's like hard to like hear someone talk about that and not just like recoil and be like, I don't want to think about pandemics any more than I have to. But I do appreciate him going there as a young artist, trying to be thoughtful as well as bringing the banger. So good for him. RD will be adding probably a song or two from this to
Oh
our
yeah.
Nostalgia Best of 2022. So check that out on Spotify. Let's keep it moving to Rosalía. Just an absolute star. I mean, we haven't really talked
Hmm.
about her nearly enough on the podcast, but she's risen to fame since we started. And it's just like an absolute skyscraper of an artist at this point.
Yeah, there hasn't been a whole lot to talk about just yet, just because Rosalia took her time dropping album three, of which this is really the second album since she really exploded. Elma Carrere came out back in 2018. It's been a while. She's been taking her time. And now we have album three, Motomami. And we don't exactly dabble in Spanish speaking music all that much, but I feel like Rosalia is just someone who's you just can't ignore because not only is her star on the rise, but she is like an artist in terms of the ambition, the experimentation, the scope of her music. And in the case of Motomami, it's like taking an extra leap because she
Mhm.
blows up for like doing like the twist on traditional Spanish flamenco music, which is very foreign to pop music and mainstream music and stuff. But now taking some time, she's kind of done another leap again, and it's just really I think carving her own lane amongst the Spanish stars. It's really cool to see.
Yeah. It This album blew me away just because you never knew what to expect from track to track,
Absolutely.
and it was almost always interesting if not excellent. I think obviously an early highlight for me on the album is La Fama with The Weekend. I thought
Mm,
they just sounded great together. Also, Abel just like bringing the Spanish speaking
yeah.
singing, sounding smooth as shit. I was like, woo, I didn't know he had that in him.
Yeah.
Awesome. Good shit.
Reminds me of Drake doing Spanish a little bit too. Maybe it's something in the air up there in the six. I don't know. Yeah, it
Yeah.
sounded good.
So I thought they sounded great together. But honestly, like you just can even like jump around and like you'll find something that stands out to you. And we're going to be talking about Charlie XCX in her fifth album here in a second. But I almost felt like what I expected to get from Charlie, we got more on this Rosalia album where it was just
Mm,
like experimenting, kind of pushing boundaries genre
oh, yeah.
wise that I was just really blown away by.
Yeah, totally. She's just really singular, but she's also not taking chances. And I think there was a bit of concern from the music criticism community in between these two albums, just because of the singles we did hear from Rosalia. You had Sinalura, the J Balvin joint, which is more of like a simple, kind of Latin pop track. And it's like, if they're gonna blow up Rosalia and just kind of make her like a Latin pop star, that almost seems like too safe and too easy, given the kind of music she really clearly wants to make. And it's really interesting that when we do hear Motomami, it's not safe. It's super experimental, but like you said, it's still really good. And I think that's just really exciting. There's lots of exciting stuff going on across reggaeton, across Latin pop, and Rosalia, I think, is cool because she makes all kinds of stuff within the general Spanish music sphere, and she doesn't like you said, she doesn't let herself get put in a box, and thus, when you listen to the record, track to track, always surprises you, and you need to listen to this album multiple times, even if you are a Spanish speaker, because there's just so much to hear and listen for.
Yeah, I don't think there's any run that really encapsulates what she's doing on this album and the expanse of it more than the run from Diablo through Como Un G. So you have Diablo, which is more like a Latin pop song in like the in line with like Gasolina, something like
Yeah,
that, so to speak.
yeah,
And then you
reggaeton
go
for sure.
to Delirio di Grandeza, which is a little bit more of like a traditional sounding, like Latin classic sounding song.
Mhm.
Then you go to Cute, which is literally like a Charli XCX song, like
Yeah,
just straight up like Gex like vibes coming off it.
sampling the famous Asian farmer singing counting meme. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Mhm.
7, 8, 9. Like the fact that she put that in a song, not as a joke, but as like an intentional sample, and then totally does not give up on the song and makes a really cool song. Like you said, that is some Charlie shit. Like that is just
Dude,
so unexpected.
yeah, the beginning literally sounds like Gex, and then it just breaks through to her just singing beautifully, and then it ends in like a I don't know, like a Gex production, like I don't know, like new age neo. I don't even know. It's
Right.
craziness at the end, and then you get to Como and G, where it's really just like a ballad. Like it's just her
Yeah.
like singing over this track, singing beautifully, and it's like you have all these different songs, and if you were to just listen to it, you'd be like, how does this even make sense together? But the album really never lost me. Like I felt like it just kind of moved right through
Mm.
seamlessly, and so I was just really impressed with what she gave us.
Right. Yeah. It's also quite efficient, only 42 minutes, but there's
Mhm.
just so much packed in here. Yeah, I like so much of it. I thought track one, Saoko, just the
Yeah,
drum line on that's fucking fire.
yeah,
Similarly, towards the end, La Combi Versace, the drum on that's fucking great too, really groovy. Um, and if you look at the credits on this, it's a who's who, honestly. Like Hentai, produced by the Neptunes. You got Frank Dukes on here. You got all kinds of famous and less famous but super heralded producers, on like the kind of everyone based in LA basically. And you can tell that Rosalia still dictated this because everyone seemed to be working off her vision here. It's really great. Also just again coming off the track with the weekend at the beginning, right? La Fama, and then you immediately go into Bolerius, which is probably the closest she gets to her older sound, which is a more
mhm.
traditional vocal heavy track. I really encourage people to just read reviews, watch breakdowns because there's just a lot to like process listening to
Yeah.
Motomami. It's really exciting.
Yeah, I think just more than anything, I left this album just being like Rosalia, who's already this massive star, just totally blowing up, is just so like thoughtful and boundary pushing, and it just feels like she's like one of those really exciting female artists. It's really exciting artists in general. It doesn't even have to
Yep,
be categorized as female. That's coming up right now. So definitely going to
totally.
be following more of her stuff for sure.
You know, a thought we've had before when notable albums come up, we really need to see a Latin pop, a Urbana. We need to see an album of this caliber from one of these genres in the general Grammy categories in album of the
Yes.
year, record of the year. We need to see that. It didn't happen when something like Burna Boy's African Giant came out, even though it should have. It hasn't happened for anyone in K-pop like BTS yet. This Rosalía record deserves an album of the year nomination at the very least. We need to see it. It can't just be relegated to Urbana categories and the Latin Grammys and stuff. We need to see an acceptance of the globalism of music, because Rosalía is super into that and takes sounds from all over the place and is being consumed all over the world too. So we need to honor that. So I really hope next year that we see Rosalía getting the best honors, not just the genre honors that you expect.
Yeah, the Grammys, I think, for survival need to embrace the global sound, not just the American sound in their categories. So why don't we keep it moving forward to an artist I already alluded to, Charli XCX, who dropped Crash, her fifth album, the last one on her Atlantic record deal, which is interesting to see where she'll go next with this. But
a deal she signed when she was 16, a long time ago. She's finally free.
How old is she now? Like mid-20s?
About 30, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The thing, the issue with that is Pop 2 and Number One Angel were called mixtapes by the label, not albums. They didn't satisfy the deal. So Charlie's been making a ton of records. Obviously, people know this. But yeah, this is the 5th official studio album from Charli XCX on Atlantic Records. And I think it's an interesting one for many reasons, a lot of meta reasons as well, given, if you follow the Charli XCX career. But obviously, I was really excited that this was coming out just because I'm a huge Charli XCX fan. And it's been almost 2 years since How I'm Feeling Now, her pandemic COVID creation that came out in 2020.
Which we liked a lot, and I think that's the thing, is that Charli going from the I don't care, I crashed my car into the bridge, I don't care artist to really just becoming I think at the forefront of genre pushing pop, neo pop music is like her ascent was so unexpected, but she has fully established herself as one of the most inventive artists in the pop sphere right now. And I think coming into this album, kind of seeing the cover, I was like, "Ooh, maybe we're gonna get like something dark, something like pushing the boundaries." And I actually felt like this was a little bit more of a step to a more conventional sound for her, which I didn't expect.
Absolutely.
And I guess I was wondering for you, as someone that is probably, I would say, the biggest Charli XCX stan that I know, someone that has had her albums on end of year lists and really just enjoyed her stuff recently. Were you disappointed by that step back?
I wasn't disappointed, but I do like Crash less than, say, her third album, Charli, from 2019, which is a record I love. Or in Pop 2, obviously, an iconic record at this point. But yeah, I think it's really interesting that Charli, on her last album on the Atlantic deal, decides to make her most conventional pop star leaning album yet. To me, it comes across as a huge middle finger to the label. And that's just hilarious to me. But Charli still is committed to it. So while it's not as interesting as the hyperpop stuff that really blew her up online, it's not as interesting as that. I still think it's really well done. And I think it really depends on your expectations for Charli XCX albums and songs. Because when I hear track 2, New Shapes, one of the singles featuring Christine the Queens and Karen Polachek, Charli's last song with Christine the Queens, Gone, was my number 1 song of 2019 off the Charli album. Fucking banger, Karen Polachek blowing up on TikTok, feeling low and lay, like, does that song meet the hype of that trio? No, I don't think it does. It's not a bad song. I think when the beat comes in on the hook, I quite enjoy it. But yeah, like, that doesn't set those expectations, right? Beg for You, another single with Rina Sawayama, kind of the same thing. That's kind of a soft, a safe track, and we've never called Charli XCX or Rina safe before, So it's a lot of like meta thoughts I have about a lot of this.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that you kind of point out, not only this feels like a middle finger to the record label, but also just like the imagery of Crash, she has this big hair on the cover, but she's like covered in blood in some of the pictures for it. And like going from her second album, Vroom Vroom, to this, it feels
Mhm.
like there's some like symmetry to like, okay, well,
Yeah.
fuck you guys, like I'm out. And I think also I don't think she wants to like give her best stuff on this, which is like fine because what you
Yeah.
still get is really good. But like when you're right, when you get Christine and the Queens, Charlie and Caroline Polachek together, you're gonna get something a little more exciting than this. It's a pretty basic track, very basic beat and delivery from all of them. And I feel like you kind of get the same with Beg for You with Rena and then
Yeah.
Rena Sawayama a couple of tracks later, where I was expecting a lot more, and it was a pretty like just generic Charlie song, for a
Hmm.
Charlie song, but
Right.
still some stuff to like.
Yeah, honestly, that'd be an amazing conspiracy if this is like a Frank Ocean blonde endless situation where Frank infamously drops endless to get out of his Apple like distro deal, and then he releases the real record blonde and blows people out of the water. If Charlie like dropped another record soon, that would blow my mind. I don't know if she's gonna do that. She's going on tour, but yeah, I think that's a good thought that Charlie maybe is saving some of her best stuff for when she's either re-upped with a better deal for her or has gone independent. The
I hope she
TBD
goes
there.
independent, just to, like go weird, like
She's got the
make what you
fan base, right? Like and
yeah.
that's the thing. It's not like she didn't become Dua Lipa on Atlantic Records. So like, what's a
Mhm.
label really gonna do for her? She's probably not gonna ever make the songs that you need to be number one on
No,
Billboard, right? So
not
therefore,
that type of
what did the label really do for you at this point? And I'm sure
yeah.
she's thought about this for a long time.
Also, just want to note that this was dedicated to Sophie, who we've
Of
talked
course.
about her tragic passing, a longtime collaborator with Charlie throughout her career. So
Hmm.
thought that was nice. Why don't we talk about what we did like on this though? I think there was
Yeah.
one or two clear standouts for me. I'm wondering if you felt the same.
Right.
Used to Know Me,
Great.
obviously using the sample from Robin on that.
Mm.
Robin's what song was that? It was Show Me Love. Sorry, but just that doom 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 doom. I mean, anytime you hear that, the song's always going to be a banger. But I thought Charlie just rides the song really really well.
Yep, that's a great one. Honestly, I really like the back half a lot. I thought
Mhm.
"Baby" was great, super sticky. That might be my favorite track. I
Yeah,
enjoyed "Lightning." "Yuck" I thought was really good. "Used to Know Me" twice. I think it ends really strong. Um, yeah, that's I think where I was most interested because "Baby" kind of reminds me of like older Charlie, but still kind of fits in this like more poppy mold that she's going for on Crash. Uh, Conversely, though, track one, title track "Crash," that steeped in auto tune, with this like kind of like repetitive like motif going on. It's like that also feels a little different from some of the other stuff. It's kind of funny that like all those big features are just these kind of simpler tracks. This is not what you'd expect. But I think a lot of the solo joints towards the end is where she's at her best.
yeah, I agree. I think the back half's definitely more interesting, which is like we said, crazy to say given that her the only collaborators on her in the first half. But yeah, I think we're gonna get better stuff from Charlie in the future. We've obviously gotten better in the past, but even bad Charlie is still like really really listenable and fun.
Well, and that's the thing too. It's like, if Charlie doesn't need to be reinventing the pop wheel every single time she makes albums either.
No,
That's a high bar to continue to reach, right? So
yeah.
I really don't hold any ill will for going in this direction. Um, Also, I just one note that stood out to me. I did not see this shared anywhere else. On Constant Repeat, track 4, there's this like production sound where I kept thinking of Ti and Rihanna's song from the 2000s, "Live Your Life,"
Mm.
specifically the "Aya he aya ha," like that part from that song was really memorable. For some reason, that like popped into my brain every time I listened to Constant Repeat. Super random. I don't know if she actually went that way, but that's what I heard. So
Interesting.
little note there. Shout out Charlie. Still really excited
Well,
to go see her on tour next month. I still don't have tickets, and the ticket prices are going up, not down. So I'm not happy about that, but I will go one way or the other.
so moving on from one fifth album to another, Denzel Curry dropping "Melt My Eyes, See My Future." Um, man, I mean, when you think Denzel Curry, what comes to mind?
energy.
Yeah.
The best
Just
product of Florida SoundCloud rap of the
yeah.
2010s. That's what I think of. Big Denzel
Same
Curry
for me.
fan. Hugely anticipating a new record from him. We haven't had a full-length album since Zoo in 2019. But definitely a bit of a twist on the Denzel Curry sound that you expect if you're a long-time listener like me. So excited and interesting to talk about, I think, this one.
Yeah, I mean, we really liked Zoo when we talked about it back in 2019. I think we were just kind of like, he's able to like keep this energy, start expanding his sound a bit, and just sounds awesome. Obviously, I think Taboo, everybody knows where he blew up, but it's been a little bit since we got an album from him. Got I guess Unlocked, but I don't think really
those are the Kenny
that.
Beats EPs. They're all right.
Yeah. So Melt My Eye is really the first like notable album in a few years, and I was just really like struck by the direction he chose to go in this, and it feels like Denzel's an artist thinking a little bit more long term in terms of I don't need to bring fire every single time. Maybe this is a good opportunity to start trying to come up with some material that's a little bit more reflective, a little bit more introspective. And I was honestly really impressed, not only because I think hearing Denzel be introspective was better than I expected it to be. I don't think I necessarily thought of him as a very like thoughtful artist, but more so just like bring the heat every time. I thought this album sounded really good from start to finish. And he has some really high profile producers on this, so makes sense that it would sound great. But I just wasn't expecting it and was blown away. What did you think of Melt My Eye, See Your Future?
Yeah, it definitely doesn't have as long a list of songs I want to revisit as, say, Unlocked or Zoo, or sorry, Zoo or Taboo or even Imperial do. Like, I really like that kind of the Denzel brand of SoundCloud rap because it's super high level. It's really barely SoundCloud rap. Like, yes, he blew up with Raider Clan, he blew up on SoundCloud, but there's just so much artistry in all those past records. And like Zoo is like super indebted to all kind of the history of Florida rap in general, even beyond SoundCloud. Like he's been a thoughtful guy, and I think lyrically he has had good wordplay, but he hasn't looked inward as much as he has until Melt My Eyes. So I think that's kind of like the key change there is it's super reflexive and inward looking, and who knows if it's super a product of the time. He's spoken a lot about his influences on this album. They're vast for sure, but I still think like even when Denzel's not making his brand of banger, he can still really deliver, I think, fun storytelling, interesting storytelling, whether that's about himself, whether that's a story, a fictional story, whatever it is. But for me, I was actually even more impressed with some of the subtle shifts to his overall sound on Melt My Eyes here. And I think there's a few clear highlights that stand out to me. But yeah, even though like it might not be what people were necessarily thinking they wanted from Denzel Curry, I still think there's a lot to really appreciate about it. And like you said, long term, best to still be investing in Denzel Curry because he's clearly coming across as a very intentional artist.
Yeah, and I do feel like we get a few songs that maybe aren't as high as some of the bangers off Zoo or Taboo, but definitely still really enjoyed Ain't No Way, which has
Yeah,
Black, Rico Nasty, Jid, Jazea Powers, Jazea and then Powers some
Powers Pleasant's the producer.
Powers Pleasant, yes. I thought that song went really hard. It had like a nice switch up. Obviously you get like Rico Nasty coming in second, just bringing absolute
classic Rico right there.
like chaotic energy, which I just like loved that shot of adrenaline, especially after Troubles with T-Pain, which I thought was a nice track, but T-Pain sounded a little like out of place for me on this.
I didn't mind hearing T-Pain though, gotta be honest. I thought T-Pain himself sounded good.
T-Pain is always a joy to listen to. He always sounds great. I just don't know if he always fits. But yeah, and then I thought JID also gave a really like solid feature on this, which I was like, nice to hear him like doing something that caught our eye a little bit more here. What other tracks did you like though?
Yeah, I agree on Ain't No Way for sure. The last I quite enjoyed. I really liked his flow on that one. Uh, Angels stood out to me. I think kind of a quick line, referencing if I want to be Jay or Ja, obviously a reference to his parted friend Existence Tentacion with the Ja part there. But I think the clear sonic standout has to be X-Wing because that is something that Denzel Curry has not done before, mixing super melodic chorus with the Denzel Curry raps. Not that he hasn't been melodic before. Of course, look no further than Clout Cobain off Taboo. He's
Yeah.
done that before. But I think this specific brand that he does on X-Wing while giving you those more introspective bars, I thought that was like a really impressive track and definitely the one I was running back the most.
Yeah, X-Wing was another clear standout. The Ain't No Way and X-Wing back to back is the highlight of the album for sure. Yeah, just as like just a really like beautiful song, and I guess X-Wing. I don't know any of the producers on this. Dirt Work, Clutch George, and Darko. Not really producers that stand out to me, especially when you have like Kenny Beats or JPEG Mafia
Right.
making tracks all over, but certainly a standout. I also really liked the first track,
Mm.
Melt Sesh One or Melt Session One. Just the percussion on that and the way Denzel just like glides over it the whole time just really caught me and it really sucked me into the album. So I thought it was really effective as an opener. Um, any features or anybody that like stood out to you as a guest on this?
I thought the smell of death was cool because that was a Thundercat beat. Thought that one
Yeah.
sounded good there. Um, Also cool to see Dr. Genius on a few songs. Of
Mhm.
course, fabled Kid Cudi, longtime collaborator. I wanted more from the Slow Tie guest spot there on
Yeah.
Zaitochi, just because he's barely on the song. He's just part of the hook, but it's like a really like produced section. So it's like the slow tie of it all doesn't really come across. You would think though that Slow Tie and Denzel Curry are a great match for their what you think of with them with their high energy music. Alas, I'd like to see them go for it again with that one. Um, and then I think the first single, "Walkin'," is
Yeah.
perhaps his best moment of just straight storytelling, just straight just getting to the bars. I think that's really one of his best tracks.
A lot of I think there's a lot to take away from this, and I think just growth as an artist in general for Denzel. So even if this isn't maybe our favorite album from him, I think it's a sign of progress in terms of
Yeah,
him just as an artist. So
yeah. It's
really
always
pleased.
totally. It's always good when even if you don't love the particular direction, you still admire it because there's lots of undeniable aspects to it, and that's definitely how I feel about it. Denzel Curry has actually been the list of artists I have yet to see live that I really want to see. He's at the top for me. I have just have missed him so far, and strangely, his upcoming tour is completely ignoring the northeast of the US and going everywhere else. It seems like a choice that will be rectified in time, but kind of weird that right now there's no northeast states. So, waiting for those to change.
Well, if you want to follow all the songs that we liked from these albums and more, check out our Nostalgia Best of 2022 on Spotify. But Dave, it's time to talk Halo, the TV series, not the video game, which premiered on Paramount Plus this past week. Um, hmm,
The missions change, Pat. They always do. And in that's a quote from Halo Infinite. However, this Halo series, the mission did change too. Of course, conceived as a Xbox original when Xbox was originally going to make their own streaming content. Then, of course, a Showtime series before Showtime and Paramount Plus did a trade, and this now lives on Paramount Plus. Two showrunners made this series. They're gone. Season two, they're making with a third showrunner. The missions change, baby, but the chief has finally come to live action. And how did you feel about that?
I thought it was okay. like I didn't leave the premiere of this being like, man, this is gonna be like the next Mandalorian or like maybe something grittier. Like I don't know if Battlestar Galactica you would say is grittier, but like it's
Mm,
not gonna be like that like expansive like space adventure type thing.
sure.
but there were some moments where I was like, that was pretty fun action, or I thought that was an interesting direction. There are just some like choices to it that feel very similar to Mandalorian, like the reluctant hero having to like kind of take this younger child around, which is I think definitely a choice. um and then I think there's also just like some of the CGI or like digital animation left me wanting a little bit more. But
Mm.
overall, I thought it was serviceable. How did you feel about the premiere of Halo?
Yeah, I agree. I honestly agree. I am a big Halo fan, beating all the games. Liking Halo Infinite so far. I think it's a good foundation for the future. Campaign's awesome. Halo fan. This, of course, is a non-canon Halo adaptation, which is a great choice, given that there's a lot of Halo novels in the games. Of course, makes sense to just let them have an open book and do something. And thus, because it's non-canon, I don't mind that they're going to change some things. Uh, look no further than we see Master Chief's face at the end of the pilot episode. We see Paulo Schreiber there. You've never seen Master Chief's face in any of the games. Bit of a change, right? But I really don't care. Like, uh, do something different than the Mandalorian and actually show your hero's face, let your actor act. I really don't mind. Um, but yeah, I think, like you said, it's solid. I don't know if there's enough there for non-Halo fans to latch onto because the solidness of it all means that it doesn't necessarily differentiate itself from a lot of these other sci-fi series. And I think it's more about my familiarity with the lore, the Spartans, the covenants, the specific designs, the sounds. Like that is what interests me because I'm already familiar with it. If you don't have a connection to that stuff, I don't know if Halo can really do it for you. And some diehard fans probably have said they're not liking it either. So this show might kind of have a issue with not pleasing either side. For me, I think it's a solid start. I actually thought the action in the beginning was pretty good. That first big fight scene, CGI is a little up and down. It's definitely not like the budget level of say like a Disney Plus,
Yeah.
franchise series, for example. But for a video game adaptation, I thought it was honestly pretty solid. And I think a big piece of this too is Halo, not exactly like the best video game story anyway. Master Chief is really not a character. He is a cipher. He is a cool piece of armor. He is an avatar for the player of the game.
Yeah.
So if they can add any spice to the story, which truly is kind of your by your numbers sci-fi tale, I think it's a win.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that's a good point. Um, in thinking about like some of the choices that left me a little bit like I'm not sure if that totally worked, but I didn't hate it. A lot of the a lot of times in the initial fight scene between the Master Chief, the Spartans, and what were the aliens?
The Covenant, yeah, those were a
Covenant,
lot of the
yes.
leads we saw there.
Um, there were moments where they would go like into the helmet of the Spartans, and
Yeah,
it was almost like you
first
were playing a
person
video
shooter.
game. And I was like, "Oh, they're actually trying to like call back to the video game in this moment, which is interesting."
Yeah.
And I
You,
guess like you're trying to keep that DNA, but
yeah, you heard the shield regeneration sound at that time as well, right from the game.
yeah. But then you also see them like doing stuff that obviously you just could never do in the game, like the like picking up a like long pole and stabbing it through a covenant's
Right.
person's like stomach and stuff like that. I was like, okay, well, I guess we're not totally going the video game route. No, but I thought it was like interesting. I mean, in some sense, doesn't this feel a little bit like the story of like the most recent Bad Batch season a little bit like
Oh,
like the
yeah,
kid with
plot wise, yeah.
the like robotic or engineered super soldier who chooses to like go against whatever he's told. I don't know. Felt very similar to me in that
Yeah,
sense. I also just don't know if the stuff with uh like the political stuff.
yeah.
I
The
didn't know if that
UNSC
was
stuff, yeah.
I didn't know if that was like fleshed out in a way that really made sense. I was just kind of like scratching my head a lot with that, but I'm sure we'll get a little bit more
Yeah.
as the season goes on.
This is a good point. Yeah, you see Dr. Halsey, you see Keys, like they're known characters. They definitely need the UNSC side of the conflict to land. Notably, we see them on Reach, so we haven't seen the fall of Reach, the big, catastrophic defeat of what you see in the game Halo Reach. Like, there's potential for sure. We also notably have not seen Cortana yet. Of course, Chief's AI. I think the Cortana performance and the relationship between Cortana and Chief, that needs to be nailed to communicate your story because, like I said, otherwise there's just not a lot of story there. So, yeah, I think ultimately a lot of this stuff kind of like it's wait and see in terms of how it pans out. But in terms of just kind of like bringing the Halo world to live action, I think they did a pretty solid job. I would love the budget to get up for season 2 just so we can punch it up, make it look great. Because in a sense, you can do a lot with that second season because you have an open book and Chief. There's not a whole lot of stuff like you don't have a lot of like guardrails with making a Halo series, in my opinion. So I'd love to see them really go for it in that season 2. So hopefully season 1 is enough to make people stick around.
Yeah, I think I definitely want to check out another episode or two and see if it picks up a bit. But up and down in the premiere, but did enough I think to warrant more watches. So
Yeah.
check out Halo if you have Paramount Plus or can find it other ways. Any last thoughts?
It's kind of interesting to think about what Paramount Plus is doing right now. Obviously, banger franchise edition now with Halo
Yeah.
joining their blowout of Star Trek, their blowout of the Taylor Sheridan verse with Yellowstone and all those spin-offs. And we know new Avatar: The Last Airbender will be coming as well. So Paramount Plus slowly kind of picking up puzzle pieces here.
Yeah, I agree. Looking forward to the offer. So we talk about that when it comes out. Why don't we move on to Apple TV Plus, which dropped Pachinko. Um, dropped the first 3 episodes. We're only going to be talking about the first 2 today. Yeah, I mean, obviously, we talked about this on our most anticipated TV of the year episode a few weeks back. So if you didn't check that out, maybe you weren't aware. But it's based on the New York Times bestseller of the same name. Um, I just like was totally blown away watching this. Not only is this like visually absolutely stunning and beautiful to look at, but I was just really more so impressed with the way that um, they're able to like weave these 3 stories together so seamlessly.
Yeah.
The storytelling on this is really high level. It seems like you had the same response.
Totally. I think the ambition and scope of Pachinko's storytelling is really impressive and really exciting because, like you said, it also looks amazing. The acting is awesome. The directing is good. Like, I have no notes. Like, I thought it was really mind blowing. Obviously, probably the biggest like creative name attached to the creation of this would be Kogonada, who directed half of the series. Of course, we just talked about his new film After Gang, which we liked quite a bit. Check that review out, youtube.com/nostalgiapod. This series is adapted by Sue Hugh, and then Kogonada and Justin Chong directed half of it, respectively. And the most famous actor, I think, to Western audiences will probably be Yoon Yo Jung, who, of course, we remember from Minari, where she won the Oscar 2 years back. But also Lee Min Ho is pretty famous as well as kind of like a Korean entertainer and stuff. So this whole story of Sunja and seeing her portrayed in 3 different timelines, as a young girl, as a teenager, 20 something, and then as an older grandma, split between our times in South Korea and Japan. Like, I think there's a lot of ambition, like I said, just a lot going on, but like I think they're really nailing it so far. Like, I'm super enwrapped.
Yeah. And it's like the little touches of it too, right? So obviously, we're not Korean or Japanese speaking people, so we're watching with the subtitles on. Dave, I'm sure you notice they have the Korean subtitles in yellow, Japanese in blue, and as it goes through the different stories, you start to see the languages blending together, the way that the people talk. And I
Yeah.
thought just that was such a for us being non-Japanese or Korean speaking people to show it in that way so that we're able to kind of see the blending of the dialogue, the blending of the cultures as Japan has basically taken over, or
Yeah.
Korea at this time. It's just really like little touches like that all stand out. You mentioned how beautiful it looks. Uh, the scenery and the settings are all stunning, but also like the costume design is stunning. Like every single detail of this has been thought through and so
Mhm.
carefully put together. It's just it seems like a masterpiece in the making. Obviously, it's too early to say since we haven't seen the whole thing, but
Yeah, totally. Like if this lands, like I think it will, it's definitely one of the best shows of the year without question. Uh, yeah, honestly, like hats off to everyone playing Sunja. Obviously, Yunya Jung,
yeah.
so good. I think she really can communicate a lot without speaking a
Uh-huh.
lot. Obviously playing the older version of Sunja, but also uh, Minha Kim, who plays like the middle aged one, like the teenage one. I thought she's like really great, and she's like not super
Yeah.
experienced as an actor either. I think the key is like her connection, attraction to Lee Min Ho's Hansu is like super believable and like makes a lot of sense. And obviously, we kind of expect their relationship to get tangled and messy, given how I think this is going to go. I think Lee Min Ho also really brings the presence and like mystery, but still like appeal that this Hansu character is supposed to have as like a broker, uh, position of power character, a Korean person who actually grew up in Japan and kind of became more in sync with Japanese culture, but is still Korean. Now coming back to Korea as a different person. I think there's just a lot of like really interesting parts here, and I really can't wait to see it. And to speak nothing of the current timeline where you see Sunja's grandson, Solomon, played by Jin Ha, who we saw in a supporting role on Devs.
Yeah. Um, I one of the things I've loved the most just in the first two episodes that we've been able to watch, and there are three out. We've only gotten to the first two so far. Is seeing through the timelines the way that the like culture has developed, and like they're really living in like very simplistic like fishing village type
Yeah,
setting in the early
that,
timelines, and
right.
then
That's like
uh
Busan.
yeah,
Obviously very different from what Busan is today.
exactly. And then you, like you mentioned, you have Solomon. Is it Solomon?
Yeah,
Is that his name?
Solomon
Yeah, Solomon.
Bayek.
Yeah. And he's in 1980s America, then comes
Yeah.
over to his family, and it's just a different world, and seeing how it's built up and over the course of her life is just really interesting.
Mhm.
um and there's I think all the performances are really great. The older husband, hold on, is it Bike Mazasu, played by Soji Arai. I
Yes.
thought he was really, really effective in the second episode.
Right. The Pachinko
Um,
parlor owner.
yeah, when they're talking about like trying to find his daughter.
Yeah. Yep.
And
Solomon's like stepdaughter, I think it is,
yeah,
who's been missing for a
and
while. Yeah.
just really effective the way that him and his wife have that conversation
Hmm.
together. So a lot of really great performances. Everything looks great. I think if you care about like cinema, but like just care about like storytelling and things looking top notch filmmaking, you have to be checking this out. It's probably, like you said, probably gonna be one of the best things of the year.
Totally. Yeah. Also great to see Jimmy Simpson. I feel like I haven't seen him in a while. He's been working. I looked it up, but like I feel like I haven't seen him since Westworld, and obviously that's not the best compliment anymore. So uh, I think he plays an interesting role as, of course, an American expat in Japan working with Japanese people, and even get Anna Sawai as well, who was in Fast and Furious 9 recently. Like, so there's a lot of intrigue from all these different angles with the plot, and because it's this like epic family tale across periods of time, the scope is truly what just really impresses me because they're nailing it so far. So I'm really excited to keep watching.
Yeah, I completely agree. Check it out, Apple TV Plus, Pachinko. why don't we move on to FX though, which had season 3 of Atlanta dropped the first 2 episodes this past Thursday. Was it Wednesday? No, it had to be
Uh,
Thursday, right?
yeah, Thursday night. Yep,
Thursday night. Um, Atlanta's back, man. Um,
been a minute.
and I think it has been a minute. What, 3 years
28
now?
spring 2018, Atlanta
4
season
years.
2.
4
Um,
years. Wow.
Donald Glover and the rest of the cast, they're busy bees, man. They get up to stuff, so it takes a while to get everyone back together, and they realized that, so they shot seasons 3 and 4 back to back and announced that season 4 is the last one. So Atlanta will be over before we know it, but it's also just back after so long away. So really exciting time because Atlanta made both of our best shows of the 2010s, best shows of the decade, even though there was only 2 seasons of it. Like it, I think the reputation at this point is precedes it. Like just an amazing half hour that kind of transcends what you expect from a show of that structure. Like it has such ambition, such a wit and perspective that only you know Donald Glover, Stephen Glover, and this writers' room could bring in terms of like the Black experience. It's just to have it come back now with everyone in the cast even more famous and more accomplished than they were at the time. Like just a really exciting time. Can't wait to watch this week to week.
Totally. And, we get Hiro Murai directing these first 2 episodes. He's directed many of the episodes
Yep.
every season. So you have that classic Atlanta look to it. Um, and I guess Three Slaps and Sinter Claus is Coming to Town as premieres did kind of like surprise me because, like you said, we've been waiting a long time and we only see Donald Glover for like 2 seconds at the very end of Three Slaps. Very Atlanta, kind of subverting your expectations and telling this separate story about these like two woke women and this child who wants to get out of this terrible home and this bad situation, and it just kind of keeps getting worse and worse. Really a horror story. And I mean, even before that, the cold open is almost like a horror movie in a way. This black man, this white man out in what lake was that? It's Lake Lanier, I think.
Yeah, I
um
wasn't sure either. Yeah, that was a really cool aside there for sure.
yeah. So just like a lot to digest. I mean, what was your just overall like take after watching the first 2 episodes?
Yeah, so Three Slaps has been a bit polarizing because
Mhm.
it's like you said, it's a subversive return for the series. Uh, you can even look at the episode descriptions, basically trolling the audience with what they're communicating, what they're saying. Donald almost predicting what people will think. So, in that sense, obviously, I respect the shit out of it, and I still enjoyed Three Slaps. Like, I think there's just the comment that you get from this creative group is really cool, and like even if this story is technically like lifted from the headlines from a few years back because they wrote this series a while ago, like even if that's the case, it still feels like super relevant to me, and like there's always just like little lines that like they will throw in there, like when the ladies are like, Rihanna used the word spirit animal. Oh, we have to comment on this. It's just like they know how to skewer stuff just right without beating you over the head with it. Um, you know,
Does
it's
she
just
have a
real
native heritage that we don't know about? Like, does she have native blood that we don't know about? Yeah, I agree.
telling was it L'Aquarius?
Yeah,
Telling
Aquarius.
L'Aquarius to like sing a song while he's working, literally like obvious nod to like slaves on the
Slavery.
plantation,
Mhm.
obviously. And then he starts busting out to like NBA young boys make no sense. So great. Uh
Yeah.
yeah, the whole bit with the police officer and
Oh
how
my
they play
god.
that up, it's I mean, obviously, this is the series that brought us BAN and Juneteenth and Teddy Perkins. Like, they're so thoughtful in everything about this show that, like, even if this is clearly like a one-off bottle episode that doesn't necessarily make any sense. It's totally cool because Atlanta was never a serialized series in the first place. Al's rap career is always on the periphery through the first 2 seasons. It's not like that's what we watch. So I wasn't super surprised because it didn't actually seem that out of character for how Atlanta tells its stories.
Yeah, no, I wasn't like super surprised, but I definitely was like a little bit I taken aback because you just have such a long layoff, and to not get any of the crew in the first episode is such a choice, you know. But also a Stephen Glover written episode, so you're always going to get something interesting when Stephen Glover's writing. He's only writing one of the first 6 episodes. So they haven't announced who wrote the last 4, so I
Oh,
wonder if he'll be
I'm sure
a
he's
little
still
bit
in the
more
room
involved
for
there.
everything.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely liked the second episode. Santa Claus is coming to town a little bit more. You know, you
Yeah, of
obviously get the
course.
crew back, and being with them is great.
Yeah,
Um,
Amsterdam.
yeah, and like you said, there's a step forward in Al's career, so you get a little bit more to go with for Paperboy to be doing. Kind of being a bit of a prima donna, it seems, which is always
Yeah,
fun. And it's nice to see Earn like being competent, which I think was something that like, I was like, are we just gonna see Earn kind of doing the same old shit, not knowing what the hell he's doing, and see
right,
him actually be like, somewhat experienced was kind of nice.
right. He's still earned though. Like he still misses
Yeah,
his almost misses his flight. Has to track down a lost laptop, but he can still handle stuff, right? You know, he's like at the end when Paperboy unsurprisingly doesn't want to perform. He's like, "Fuck it, dude. Follow the insurance. You'll make more money anyway." Like he's
yeah.
actually handling it. But I loved how it ended because at the
Oh,
end, what's he do? He gets up out of bed at 4 in the morning to bring Al a bunch of wings. Uh,
mm,
he like sighs. He knows that he's using Albert. Albert's his meal ticket to a better life, and he sucks it up and does it.
yeah,
Um, but just kind of watching everyone do their thing, I think it's just really it's really fun to be back with this group,
yeah,
and I think Van and Darius, their stuff was great too.
yeah. You don't really get a lot of Darius in this episode, but obviously when Lakeith is in this character, he just is
Yeah,
such a presence and
the
kills
line
it.
readings are just amazing. They always are. Like he could say anything, and you're just like on every word with him.
Yeah, what did he say? Like, like in my religion right now, or like this is my religion, just like being in Amsterdam, like whatever he says, or I'm with God, like just in Amsterdam. It was just amazing, like the way it introduces him. And then I thought it was a nice episode for Van.
Mhm.
You kind of see some growth from her as well. She's on this trip with, not really with Earn, but kind of, not even really sure what the deal is, and to have her like go through this experience of meeting Tupac, who was alive and now dead in Amsterdam, and
Yeah,
being the last person to like speak to him, and the way that happened was,
yeah,
oh my god, dude! Just like it's the sort of thing that like you come to expect from the show, but still like blows you away because you're like, how the hell did they think of this?
yeah,
Like ridiculous shit.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
that's what they do. They experiment and jump around with genre and tone, and
yeah.
it's unlike anything else. It's great.
Um, Also, just interesting to see if they're going to go like COVID route, Earn coughing throughout the episode. I wonder if that's
Mhm.
just like a little bit of a red herring, or if there's going to be more
Oh
to come
no,
from that.
I
So
hope not.
yeah, we'll see. I mean, I have confidence that if they choose to go that route, that they'll do it in a thoughtful and interesting way. But
Mhm.
definitely something to be thinking about. This is like probably the one of the handful of shows that I really want to stay up on. Like, I don't want the episode to get too far beyond the release date because people just talk about it. There's so much
Yeah,
discourse. So if you like Atlanta, recommend staying on top of the episodes because there's a lot of good discourse to go along with it.
and people know this by now, but Atlanta's the best thing Don Glover's ever done. He's a very famous and experienced guy at this point, but I mean, this is his masterwork. So best enjoy it.
Why don't we move on to music again, but in a different sense here. So before we get to Grammys, which are going to be coming up, we should talk about the tragic and untimely passing of Taylor Hawkins, the drummer for Foo Fighters. And uh, someone that's seen Foo Fighters 2 or 3 times in person, but been a fan since probably my teenage years. I'd say became more of a fan as I got into like festivals, and they were kind of becoming like the legendary rock act of the mid 2010s and on. Taylor Hawkins just always stood out whenever you saw the Foo Fighters because he's such a fun-loving presence. I mean, if you see the picture behind me on YouTube, it's him playing the drums with like this huge smile. And that was pretty much how he was the entire time. Not only like a world-class drummer, but just seemed like a genuinely like upbeat and nice and charismatic person. Obviously, I think the relationship with him and Dave Grohl is well documented, but just that they were incredibly close. Dave Grohl described him in I think his most recent book as like a brother, like legitimately saw him as a brother and like a musical soulmate. I think he said, and to be a drummer good enough to be in a band with Dave Grohl, who arguably is one of the best drummers from the 1990s, with coming up with one of the biggest bands of all time, says a lot about Taylor Hawkins' talent, and he always brought it. So, dying at 50 pretty tragically was really shocking, especially because they had just played the night before for Lollapalooza, South America. So definitely the Lollapalooza, Brazil, I should say. Definitely very, very sad. I mean, Dave, I know you're not as big of a Foo Fighter fan, but what was just your initial reaction seeing it?
Yeah, obviously he's very unexpected, very sad. Um, I was originally just thinking, like, what's the future of the band?
Yeah,
Because Foo Fighters, we talked about Medicine at Midnight last year, early 2021 album, their 10th record, and honestly, pretty solid, especially very good for a 10th record. Definitely didn't seem like there's any signs of them slowing down. And not that Taylor Hawkins was a founding member of the band, he wasn't. He joined later, but clearly is a huge part of the band today. And like his charisma, I think, really shone through, and especially in like live performances, there's countless moments of him like helping Dave Grohl when his voice started to go during a set or something and singing
yeah,
himself. So I think for Foo Fighters fans, it's a really tragic loss, and you just hope like the fabric of the band can continue. Obviously, we associate Dave Grohl as like the central figure of Foo Fighters. Obviously, as the founder and figurehead, but you hope that he can kind of galvanize the group. I'd imagine they're going to take some time away after this, but also something I didn't know until I was reading up after he passed. But I didn't realize that Taylor Hawkins actually came up of in Alanis Morissette's touring band when she
yeah,
was touring Jagged Little Pill. So quite the career for him. It's just really really sad that to see it go because Foo Fighters, arguably the biggest, most successful, most well liked of the big rock bands of yore that are still going. So yeah, it's a really tough one. I'm curious to see what happens at the Grammys this week because before this had happened, Foo Fighters were expected to win Best Rock Album for Medicine at Midnight. I have to imagine the speech would be dedicated to Taylor, and you certainly hope that this is a big part of the broadcast now for that award.
yeah. I imagine there's probably going to be a pretty big like moment for him, for sure. You know, just like a couple of like moments from seeing him live that I just wanted to share. First, when the first time I saw them live was at Firefly 2014, and it was their first time playing together as a band in like a few years. That tour, and they came out as the Holy Shits for their encore, which was this like basically this like bar cover band that just played like classic rock hits. And after their set, there's like a video on the screen of Dave and Taylor Hawkins backstage, and Taylor Hawkins is like, "We gotta give him at least one more song." And Dave Grohl's like, "All right, one more." And then Taylor Hawkins is like, "No, no, no, two." And he like got all the way up to five, and it was like a great back and forth between them. You obviously saw like how much they like really liked like being in a band together, which was cool. And then he came out and he sang one of the songs, and I think it probably was Under Pressure or Somebody to Love. I can't remember exactly which one he sang, but um, just a really talented musician beyond drumming. So he actually had a pretty decent voice, which is pretty cool that Dave Grohl found a drummer for his band who also could sing. And then yeah, just seeing them live at City Field a few years after that. That's when Dave Grohl was on the throne of guitars, right? And
Hmm.
uh, obviously takes away a little bit of the show because Dave can't run around and be his normal self at that point. But it was always just like a joy to watch Taylor Hawkins play drums because he just was like he's like Animal from the Muppets, dude. Just like the energy he brought and the way he was just like slamming on stuff and never missing a beat. Just truly a legend. Definitely a huge loss for rock music, but yeah, definitely a big rip. Why don't we move forward to what you alluded to, which is the Grammy Awards, which will be hosted by Trevor Noah this coming Sunday. Dave, we don't really care about the Grammys, but it's fun to predict them, right?
It is. Also, I would like to care more about them in the future. You know, there's a lot going on with that. You need big artists to want to care as well. Obviously, The Weeknd has had his beef. Drake, very perplexingly, pulled his nominations after getting them, which kind of feels like he took his ball and went home kind of deal when he didn't get as many nominations as he wanted. Either way, people are up and down on the Grammys in the industry. You hope they can fix that. But it's still fun to predict. We did a whole big thing on what we thought should be nominated last fall. So a lot of things, of course, were not nominated. We now know what has been. So now we have to decide who will win. You know, not necessarily who should win, but who will end up winning.
So, I mean, where do you want to start with this? Do you want to start with like the big ones and work back, or do you want to start from some of the smaller ones and work our way up?
You know, I kind of think we should start with the big ones just because that's kind of like the identity of the Grammys year to year to me, right? Like 2 Grammys ago, it was the Billie Eilish Grammys where she sweeps the general field, right? That's kind of all I remember
Yep.
as I look it up. You know,
Yeah.
further back, you have what Bruno Mars beats Kendrick, Macklemore beats Kendrick. Like it's always like moments and battles that stand out to me more often than not. And this year, I think there's a pretty obvious corollary to the Billie Eilish year, and that, of course, is Olivia Rodrigo, who is in position to perhaps pull off the same feat.
Yeah, it's interesting though because she's going up against Billy, who just won a Grammy.
Yeah,
Is an unstoppable awards show
won an
force.
Oscar, you mean?
Sorry, yes, won an Oscar. Thank you.
Already won a
Um,
Grammy for that song as well.
yeah. So, um, tough sledding for Olivia Rodrigo. However, it does feel like she's a shoe in probably for best new artist, which we will circle back to. But it feels like she's definitely going to win that, and so you'll at least get one moment. Are we going to get multiple Olivia Rodrigo moments? It feels probable, but yeah, I think you're right. Let's start with album of the year. You mentioned Olivia Rodrigo for Sour is nominated. I'm going to read through the rest of them. John Batiste for We Are, Tony Bennett, Lady Gaga, Love for Sale, Justin Bieber, Justice, Triple Chucks Deluxe, Doja Cat, Planet Her, Billie Eilish, Happier Than Ever, Her, Back in My Mind, Lil Nas X, Montero, Taylor Swift, Evermore, and Kanye West, Donda. Truly baffling list of albums that is nominated. Uh,
Yeah, John Batiste, the most nominated artist this year, coming right off of co-creating the score for Pixar Soul, and now he's perhaps going to clean up at the Grammys. How about that?
well, it's I mean, good for him. He's a great artist. Think he's fantastic. Just like so weird to read this list. Back in My Mind from Her was literally an album that we like detested. Like just thought was absolutely trash.
Yeah,
Uh and to have that in Donda, another album that was kind of mid for Kanye at best, up against Sour and Happier Than Ever. I actually don't know if there's like an album in this list I would say is like a really great album. Maybe Planet Her is the closest, you
yeah.
know?
Planet Her is my favorite of everything nominated here. I think more populously, Sour is probably the most popular album here.
Yeah.
You know, but I
Yeah.
mean, it's the other Taylor album. It's not a folklore. It's
Folklore.
Evermore. So like it's a lesser record. Donda goes without saying. Montero. didn't love Montero. I like parts of it, but Lil Nas X is still a work in progress. I definitely didn't think he dropped an album of the year caliber record. But this is what happens at the Grammys. They're just, it's not super accurate to what more critically inclined people might think. Alas, here we are. I think it's still good that something like Sour is here, because Sour to many people was the album of the year because Olivia was truly the artist of the year. So if it does go that way, then there's really nothing to worry about.
Do you predict that Olivia's gonna win this?
Good question. I kind of feel like she has a really good chance for the Billy 5 for 5. I really do. Just because who are they going to pick instead? Unless it's like John Baptiste or Tony Bennett or something. That could always happen. But like, Olivia's not losing to Lil Nas X. She's not losing to Justin Bieber. She's not losing to Doja. Maybe she could lose to
Billy.
Taylor, and she could
Billy.
certainly lose to Billy.
Yeah.
Billy, of course, won was a record of the year last year for Everything I Wanted, or was it Song of the Year? She won one of them last year. Super unexpected, and not what most people would have picked for kind of a one-off Billy single. To have Billy win that award back to back. Then again, the Billie Eilish hype is still that high within the Recording Academy. Maybe Billy does it again. Who can say?
Yeah, I think I'm actually probably going to if we're making picks, I'm gonna pick Billy to win it. Although I really hope Olivia does win. I hope she just has like a huge night because it feels like this should be an anointing of her. However, in most years, this probably would be a year where they kind of anoint Doja Cat as well. Doja similarly blew up last year, and or at least between the last Grammys and now. So, it's kind of tough beat for her, but Olivia just is kind of like the one, the anointed one in some sense
Right.
there.
Yeah.
Why don't we go on to Song of the Year, which I mean, another just completely baffling list. Ed Sheeran, Bad Habits. Alicia
Same.
Keys and Brandy Carlisle, A Beautiful Noise. Olivia Rodrigo, Driver's License. Her, Fight for You. Billie Eilish, Happier Than Ever. Doja Cat, Kiss Me More, featuring SZA. Silk Sonic, Leave the Door Open. Lil Nas X, Montero, Call Me By Your Name. Justin Bieber, Peaches. And Brandy Carlisle, Right on Time. Woo! Never would have put these songs on any playlist together. Never would have mentioned them in this order, but here we are. I mean, the Driver's License is probably going to be the winner.
Yeah, you would hope so. It's just really funny to see because remember, the artists submit what they want to for each category to be up for nomination. It's just funny to see like Happier Than Ever title track. That's the Billy joint you picked. Peaches. Yeah. That's the Bieber one he picked. It was the biggest hit, but it's not the best song off your album, bro.
Yeah.
I think there's like 3 really great choices here: Driver's License, Kiss Me More, and Leave the Door Open.
Yep.
I wouldn't be shocked for like a surprise Leave the Door Open win. Of course, Bruno and more recently Anderson .Paak are also Grammy darlings in their own right. So,
true.
And don't write off Billy, as we just said. But yeah, it feels like Driver's License needs to win because that also really kind of feels like the track of the year.
Yeah, completely agree. I think that would be my pick, but if there is one to upset it, I could maybe see them giving Montero like a nod just to give Lil Nas X some love. I don't know.
That's a weird one because Song of the Year specifically for the songwriting, and obviously that's the biggest strength for Driver's License is Olivia's songwriting.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's a tough
well, then
one.
You know what? Actually, you made a good point. It could be her. Honestly, that could be Fight for You.
If her wins, man, that would be bad. That's just bad.
Yeah. I don't think that's what's going to happen, but I'm going to go with Driver's License. But yeah, if there's an upset, it probably would be her, unfortunately. Why don't we just hit Record of the Year quick too?
Yeah.
Which
a lot of the same songs like it usually is.
Yeah, except you have ABBA, I Still Have Faith in You, Freedom from John Baptiste, I Get a Kick Out of You from Tony Bennett, Lady Gaga. Any others here that are different? Nope. You take out that Sheeran track, take out the Alicia Keys track, I believe.
Yeah.
And a couple others, but I think this will probably be Driver's License as well. I think it'll probably be one the same. I don't know. Is there one that the production stands out where you could say, maybe that'll pull the upset?
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously Dan Nigro for produced basically all of Sour, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if we would call Driver's License like the best bit of songcraft off Sour. Of course, that's what they submitted for here because I think they can win with it. But like, not my top choice for here. I would have loved Brutal or Good for You to be here instead.
Yeah.
Alas, yeah, like what? Leave the door open. Perhaps has a better case, for the record of the year criteria. But yeah, I mean, again, if I'm thinking Billy sweep, it feels this is very much like the Billy sweep where Bad Guy basically did the same thing, wins both.
Yeah, I think that's probably what will happen. I do think if there's a track that deserves record of the year, it probably would be "Kiss Me More." As the upset. I
That was
think
your
that
number
that's a
one
really,
song.
I think that's a really well produced song there. So, all right, best new artists we
Wait,
have.
hold on. Who made
Oh,
Kiss Me More? Is that made by Dr. Luke?
no,
wasn't,
Roger
right? No, it wasn't.
Shahayed, Tiz himself, and
Made
Yeti
some of the other
Beats.
tracks. Okay, yeah, never
Yes.
mind. Yep, good
Yeah.
song.
I don't think they would nominate him because I don't think he would win. Best new artist. We have Aruj Aftab, Jimmy Allen, Baby Keem, Phineas, that brand new band Glass Animals, Japanese Breakfast, The Kid Leroy, Arlo Parks, Olivia Rodrigo, and Saweetie. I mean, this is again like the bastardization of this category. Best new artist. Glass Animals has like 3 or 4 albums at this point.
We went long on best new artist when we talked about the nominations and the fact the definition is garbage. The fact that you can submit yourself 3 different years for best new artist when we think of how long a Grammy cycle is, completely destroys the definition of new. We went through this. I mean, recall Blackpink was still eligible for best new artist for this Grammys.
Insane.
And somehow they don't pick them, of course. Makes no sense. Alas, there's some good picks here for sure. I like most of these nominations just fine. But obviously, Olivia Rodrigo is the only one in any of the other big categories, so thus she's a lock to win this.
Yeah, if the odds are even anywhere close to decent, just lock it up. Take the free money.
I guess if there was ever one thing, if Olivia somehow does not have a good night at all, and it's a big Billy night, perhaps Phineas wins Best New Artist. That's the only other scenario I could see in this category.
Yep. All right. So why don't we move on to pop now? I mean, we don't need to hit every category in pop. Best pop solo performance. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Another driver's license win. I would note just if we recall last Grammys, Dua Lipa wins pop vocal album for Future Nostalgia, beating Taylor Swift Folklore. But then, if we recall later, Taylor did win Album of the Year, beating Dua and everyone else for Folklore. So it's not necessarily like other award shows where like smaller awards automatically cascade to the big ones. So they can spread the love. Something to keep in mind here. So driver's license, not necessarily a lock to win pop solo performance here. Perhaps this is where they throw Billy another bone. But if you're predicting a big night for Olivia, you probably think she wins here again.
Yeah, I think Olivia will probably win. Probably best pop solo performance for duo or group. I would love to see BTS get the nod for Butter.
Really would.
I bet it will probably be Coldplay, but
that'd be tough too. Kiss Me More is up for record and song, doesn't get them as we expect, and then doesn't even get this award either. That would be a bad beat for Doja and SZA.
Yeah, and I think probably best pop vocal album gonna be Olivia. I think you can lock that one in, but maybe Billy will pull off the upset. I don't know.
Yeah, just feels pretty good category.
It's a strong category.
I love Planet Her, of course. That's a good one.
Yep. Any thoughts on the like dance electronic music section? Do you have a strong opinion on any of these?
Not really. Obviously, 100 Gex completely snubbed. Tough beat.
It's really interesting to see the evolution of Sylvan Esso to me, who went from being this like I don't know, like really toned down like indie group to apparently they're in the EDM category, which I haven't checked in on them recently.
More synth pop last I checked, but
they're going up against Marshmello here.
Yeah, the
Uh,
fact that Marshmallow's nominated tells you a lot, honestly.
yeah. Why don't we move on to rock? Why don't we move on to a category that we might actually care
Yeah.
about a little bit? Um, best, I don't know, best rock song. Let's do that. I don't know. Waiting on a War, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Honestly, you got Foo Fighters, Best Rock Song, Waiting on a War, and then you have Foo Fighters, Best Rock Performance, Making a Fire. Those are my favorite songs in both those categories, and I haven't
Yeah.
heard all the other songs to be clear. Like Best Rock Song, you have a late period Weezer joint, the late period Kings of Leon, Paul McCartney,
You know,
and Mammoth WVH. Like the rock categories in the 2010s, they're very hit or miss. That much is clear.
best rock performance is actually a really interesting category, right? Because you have the Foo Fighters Making a Fire, which is probably the best song there. Nothing compares to you. The Chris Cornell cover is an amazing cover that he recorded in like 2014, but was released after he died. So, could get a posthumous nod there. And you have the Black Pumas, who, similar to her, are like a Grammy darling. So
Right. Yep.
I think
They
any of
were
those three
Album of
could
the Year
take that.
nominee last year for the deluxe version. Yep.
So I think any of those three could take it. My money would be on Making a Fire, but I could see that Nothing Compares to You just for like the Chris Cornell moment. Um, yeah, and best rock song, I think it's got to be like Waiting on a War. I guess.
Yep.
I don't know. I guess none of these songs really jump out. Yeah, best rock album. I think you can lock up the Foo Fighters though.
Yep. Just keep an eye on Black Pumas.
I mean, unless they really like give McCartney some love, but
Yeah.
I don't see it happening. I don't even think he'll show up for this.
Yeah, definitely not. I think alternative music album is kind of interesting just because good category, Fleet Foxes, St. Vincent, Arlo Parks, Japanese Breakfast, and Halsey. If Halsey was to win for her rock pivot, it would be her first Grammy win.
I don't see it. I think this is going to be St. Vincent just because St. Vincent always wins at the Grammys for this category. But I would love to see Japanese Breakfast get some love here because they would be my pick for best new artist in most years. So, R&B. Any thoughts in these categories? Anything stand out? Silk Sonic.
So hers there, please no. Silk Sonic, you would expect big nominations, but man, it would be great for Jasmine Sullivan just because she got so much love with Hotels in 2021 after having a very long career. I don't necessarily see it. I'm glad she's at least recognized here, but yeah, it kind of feels like Silk Sonic, right? The Grammys love them some Bruno.
Yeah, I would love to see Leave the Door Open win for like best R&B song or something in here. I'd love to see Silk Sonic. Honestly, like you said, them or Jasmine Sullivan would be great for most of these categories. Even Leon Bridges, I like him, and I mean, that best traditional R&B performance category with John Baptiste, Leon Bridges, and her. I mean, three Grammy darlings. I don't know how they're going to pick between them.
Right.
Tough for the.
I mean, John Baptiste has to win something as the most nominated person on the night, right?
Yeah. Also, funny that like best R&B album we don't get Silk Sonic somehow. Like
that is a great call. Yeah,
that's doesn't these categories never make sense to me.
Shout out Jasmine Sullivan though. That's the best pick in that category for sure.
Hope she takes it home. Okay, Dave. Now we're into your wheelhouse. Rap. I mean, best rap performance. Who you got?
Yeah, this is an interesting category, right?
Only
I don't
four.
love Flat Shit from Megan. I don't love My Life from Cole and 21 and Moray. Up is a good Cardi song.
It is.
But I think it's Family Ties, man. I think Keem, the Kendrick Connection, he's Best New Artist nominated. I think Keem's gonna win, and honestly, I really can't have a problem with that. I love the Keem record, and that's one of the biggest bangers on it.
Yeah, I think that's probably the one that fits best for the description. But if it's Up, I wouldn't be too sad either. Always nice to have Cardi speaking live. So
look up the tweet of her at Disney World in the teacup with Culture and her security guard in the corresponding teacup grilling everyone.
Amazing. Any thoughts on best melodic rap performance?
I think this is a pretty inspired group of nominations, all things considered. Need to Know wouldn't have been my Doja choice. I'm glad Doja's still there. The fact that the Tyler song that got in is the one
What's
with
your
the young
name?
boy. It's really funny.
Oh, you look malnourished.
I mean, my pick is obviously Hurricane. That was my number one song of 2021.
Yeah,
But I just kind of have a feeling that Industry Baby from Nas X is going to win with Jack. I
I
don't
hope
know.
you're wrong. It's a good song, but I just feel like What's Your Name or Hurricane would be better choices for that.
Honestly, Kanye watching the Will Smith drama, he's
Ugh.
excited for the Grammys, baby.
Stop. If Pete Davidson's there, this could get ugly, but don't know why he would be, I guess. Best rap song: Bath Salts, Best Friend, Family Ties, Jail, My Life. I mean, you love Jail, so I know you're gonna go there, right?
So I'm not a fan of Jail. I mean,
Family
Family
Ties
Ties
again?
again would be kind of boring. Honestly, you know what my pick would be here? It'd be Best Friend, Saweetie and Doja. That shit's great. That's a banger,
I mean,
dude.
I would love it if they did that. I don't see them doing it, but I would love it if they did.
It's probably double Family Ties.
Best rap album, Dave. Why don't we finish up here?
Interesting one here because last year Nas won for King's Disease 1. He's back here again with King's Disease 2, which is a better album than King's Disease 1. And then, of course, you have Tyler the Creator. Last time he won this category for Igor. And then you have Kanye, who's won the category before and is currently up for Album of the Year. And Cole's also there too. So tough to call, man. It's probably going Kanye's way, but I mean, my pick is Tyler, but also don't count out Nas.
I'm just gonna call my shot. It's gonna be Tyler. They're gonna anoint him. If he's finally gonna get the love he deserves.
Yeah.
And Kanye, I mean, come on. Seriously, for this album, this is when you're gonna reward him? Seriously? No.
Tough one.
Anyways, any last thoughts or predictions for the Grammys?
The Latin category, I just wanted to check on. I believe it's the Latin pop. Yes, Latin pop album. Selena Gomez is nominated for Revelacion, that EP that we're talking about.
Nice.
If she was to win, she would win her first Grammy as well. Kind of interesting because you look at those Latin categories, all the heavy hitters are actually in the other category, Musica Urbana. That's where Raul Alejandro and Bunny and Balvin and Carol G and Kali Uchis are. So Selena is kind of going up against the B team there. So possible that Selena could get in for the the Latin pivot that she kind of just came up with out of nowhere with Revelacion.
Love that.
I'm interested to see how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's it for me. I expect we're going to see a lot of Olivia Rodrigo, probably a lot of Doja Cat. There'll probably be some sort of like rock medley or tribute to Taylor Hawkins, I imagine.
Right. BTS is performing. That's great.
Yes.
Looking forward to that. I wonder if it's just Butter or maybe they do the medley with permission to dance as well.
I hope so. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for us this week, Dave. What should the people be doing for next week?
So next week, because it's all the rage award shows, we're going to be doing our 2023 early Oscar predictions. Also doubles as like a general movie preview for the year to come. Excited about that. Also, Marvel's back because they're always right around the corner. Moon Knight comes out on Wednesday on Disney Plus. Oscar Isaac.
Never ends.
Different side of Marvel comes out on theaters. Jared Leto, Sony.
Oh God.
Morbius. We'll see how much we get into there because there's another movie coming out, Everything Everywhere All at Once, the Daniels movie starring Michelle Yeoh, that is getting spectacular reviews as this wild multiverse action film, original of course. So that's probably significantly more exciting than Morbius. So keep an eye out for that. Also, early next week, K-pop Big Bang is coming back after several years away. You know, the longest running active male K-pop group right now, obviously the group of G-Dragon. So very notable and excited to find out what the hell that album sounds like at the end of the day.
Well, if you want to stay tuned for all that and more, hit that subscribe on youtube.com/nostalgiapod and follow us on Spotify, Nostalgia Pod. Give us that 5-star rating. We'll catch you all next week.